Hello and blessings to all of my YouTube family. Once again, this is Roosevelt with another episode of Roosevelt Sounds Off. And at first, I was going to save this particular part as part 3. But as some of you all very, very well know, that I am in the middle of preaching a series. And this is I moved it from part 3, and this is going to be part 2 of A Tale of Two Countries. Basically, in this lesson, I'm attempting to teach that no matter who you are within this country, within this world, whether you're black or white, male or female, whether you're rich or poor, that everyone in this country especially deserves to be treated fairly and be treated all the same, and that there's no, even though man might make a difference in some things, that there's no difference in God in people in between rich and poor, black and white, and man and woman. And the reason why I'm moving part 3 to part 2, because I think this is very, very relevant to something that has been in the news over the last week concerning the Ray Rice incident. As some of you all very, very well know, that Ray Rice, he's a football player who got caught up in a domestic violence situation with his then fiance, who he allegedly was caught on camera beating up and knocked her unconscious, and then he dragged her out of the elevator, and however it was, and the NFL ended up suspending him indefinitely from football. And I just wanted to add my voice to the list of voices concerning this incident and tell you how I feel about it when I sound off. But first of all, I'm going to have my reader, and she's a new reader for me, go into my foundational scripture that I have picked up for this entire lesson of A Tale of Two Countries. So, honey, anytime you're ready, you can just read. I'm starting off with Mark 30. Y'all gotta excuse me, I just get a little bit nervous sometime. Mark 13, and begin reading at the 34th verse.
It's like a man going away. He leaves his house and puts his servants in charge, each with his assigned task, and tells the one at the door to keep watch. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know when the owner of the house will come back, whether it is in the evening, or at midnight, or when the rooster crows, or at dawn. If he comes suddenly, do not let him find you sleeping. What I say to you, I say to everyone, watch.
Okay, now, like I had told you in lesson 1, that he is talking about watch, but it's something very, very prevalent that I'm trying to get to. When I say unto one, I say unto all. That means it should be no separation in between none of us, no matter what it is that we happen to call ourselves within this country. So right now, my second foundational scripture is coming from Acts, and that is coming from chapter 10, and that is also beginning at verse 34.
Then Peter began to speak. Now I realize how true it is that God does not show favoritism, but accepts men from every nation who fear him and do what is right. You know the message God sent to the people of Israel, telling good news of the peace through Jesus Christ, who is Lord to all.
Okay, now you see that no matter what, that we're all included in on that. It shouldn't be, it should not ever be any more blessings for someone all because they're a so-called white or Caucasian American. It should be no kind of less or extra blessings for anyone all because they're rich versus somebody who is poor. It should not be any more blessings for a woman over a man. And that's just what I'm trying to get into on today. I want to talk about and explore the American justice system again, and explore the domestic violence part of the American justice situation, and even be a little bit transparent and talk about how even some years ago I was even caught up in dealing with the justice system through the domestic violence situation. But the first thing I want to comment on is the whole Ray Rice thing. Now, they say, allegedly, that Ray Rice had knocked his fiancée out because I guess they got into a fight, or they were both at the party and that they both ended up drinking, and I guess certain things were said, and then from what I heard and from what I even saw a little bit on the tape, that she did spit on him or hit him first, and then he just knocked her out, or whatever it was. And let me just say that maybe it wasn't right for him to do it, because some people, we got a whole lot of people like the talk show host, very conservative talk show host from Ohio, Bill Cunningham, and of course Steve Wilkos, who always say that no matter what a woman does, a man should never ever put his hand on a woman. And maybe he shouldn't, but I don't think that it is right for us men to be abused either. I mean, just like it's the same thing that can apply for him should also apply for her as well. It should not be that anytime that both a male and a female get dragged into court because of domestic violence, the judge would take it a little bit more easier on the woman versus the man. And I'll tell you something that I'm talking about, because I'm going to be very transparent about something that happened to me back in 2002 with an ex-girlfriend. The story goes is that this ex-girlfriend of mine and me, we had an argument on like a Sunday, before I got ready to go to work. And, it was kind of a bad one, but, we didn't put our hands on each other. We just yelled or cursed at each other and everything. That's all that it was, okay? And then I didn't talk to her all day on that Monday, even though she was steady trying to call me. I just ignored her phone call. And then after I got home from work, because I worked 3 to 11 shift, I got in from around like 1 a.m. in the morning. And then I hear this knock at the door, like around 2:30. Sounded like somebody just banging at the door. Then I just had a feeling, didn't really know, but had a feeling that it could have been her. So what I did, I ran up, since I live in a basement, I came up the stairs, kind of ducked a little bit so she wouldn't see me, I guess, through the window on the door, and on the side door. And I went around to the living room, and I looked out the window in the living room, and I saw her car parked there. I said to myself, oh crap. And then I just went to the side door. I just said, look, I know you want to talk about I told her, I know you want to talk about yesterday, the argument it is that we had. But I said, I'm tired from work. We had like a very, very hard day. Can we please talk about it tomorrow? Now, some of the things I'm about to say, a whole lot of these are her words and her language. It's not mine. It's not the way I was talking. But I got to put it out there anyway, exactly how it really was. I got to be for real on this here thing. Okay? She actually said, no, you fucking son of a bitch. We're going to talk about it now. I was like, no, I don't want to talk about it now, because I said that I was tired. Then I tried to close the door, and what she did was actually kick the door in and forced her way in. So I just said, look, girl, are you just going to leave? She's like, no, I'm not going to leave, you fucking black son of a bitch. I'm like, look, just leave. I was like, I kept asking her to leave. I just begged her to leave. Just go. Whatever kind of problem it is that we have, we can discuss it. We can discuss it tomorrow, but just not tonight. Because I knew exactly at that point how I was feeling. I already had a bad day at work, and whatever that she was going to put on me, I didn't want to have to end up taking out on her of my bad day. Because then it would have been a whole lot worse than, anything. Because basically, y'all don't know Roosevelt, but I know Roosevelt. And that's basically, what counts. So she follows me downstairs. And she's something like, well, look, we're going to talk. We're going to talk about this argument. I said, no, we're not going to talk, because you're going to be leaving. No, I ain't going to leave. And then she decides just to sit down in the chair. I was like, oh, so you're not going to leave, huh? She's like, no, I'm not going to leave. I was like, okay, if you're not going to leave, I'll just call the police and have them take you up out of here. So what she does is jump out of the chair, and she runs ahead of me into my bedroom, and she grabs my phone and snatches it out the wall. And then she was a tad bit taller than I was. So she's holding the phone up. So I can't get to the phone. Here I am jumping up trying to grab the sucker, and couldn't quite make it. She's like, I'm not giving this phone back to you till you talk to me. I was like, yeah, but I don't want to talk to you. I was like, we'll talk tomorrow if you just leave. She's like, oh, you're not going to talk to me? I said, no, I'm not. And then she's like, well, she told me, okay, give me back every single thing I ever bought you during the course of our relationship. She starts going through all of my stuff, pulling out all of my stuff, pulling every single thing down, dragging every single thing down, knocking stuff over, even pulled out a bunch of my good clothes, knocked those on the floor. It then spilled a bottle of bleach on top of my clothes, ended up like bleach started pouring down my clothes. And then I'm upset and everything, but I'm still steadily just trying to walk away from the whole thing. She's steady coming up behind me, pushing me in my back. Yeah, you gonna do something? Do something. Do something. Do something. Just doing that right in my back, poking me in my back. Just kept it up. Just wouldn't stop. Just kept egging the whole darn thing on. Just wouldn't stop. So in the end, I'm sorry you all. After so long, I had a bad day at work. Then I come here and everything, and then you're barking at me. I'm sorry. I just lost it. I don't know what happened to me. I don't know if I want to say that I blacked out or I don't know what happened. But it was like before I knew it, I had swung on her, had knocked her on the bed. And then before I knew it, I was on top of her with my hands literally around her throat. Yeah, that's exactly how it was. My hands were literally, during the time that I was doing it, it didn't seem to me like I was even doing this thing. I mean, it just seems like I was on the outside of my body. Or it felt like at the time, my spirit had left my body. And it was floating on the roof of my bedroom. And I looked down upon myself and could see my body actually doing this. Because I didn't believe that I was actually doing this thing. Because this is not me. Anybody who knows me personally knows that that is really, really not me. And then I had my hand around her throat, and then she took the phone and hit me in my hand, and I started bleeding. It then took the phone and hit me in my head. At this point, I snapped back into reality, and I jumped off of her. And then at the time, my landlady had a phone in the kitchen, and I ended up getting on the phone calling 911. And they said that they were sending somebody. She runs behind me and reaches and grabs one of the woman who owns the house, reaching and grabbing one of her pots off of the stove and throwing it at me. And then when the police come, and I didn't want her to be arrested. I really didn't. So when I saw the police came, my hand is still bleeding. So I went in the bathroom, took it, and wrapped it up in some toilet paper very heavily, and I stuck my hand in my pocket. And then the police officer, he's trying to get my whole side of the story as to how every single thing happened. And all the time, he's saying that I'm making him nervous because you know how police are, especially Chicago police. Oh boy, they don't never want to talk to somebody with their hand in their pocket, because golly, as soon as your hand is in your pocket, a whole lot of numb nut cops actually think that you're gonna shoot them or do something to them when that's not even your intention to do something to one of them, because they're not looking out for the people, they're looking out much more for themselves. But sorry, I went off on a tangent right there, but yet I digress. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, he was talking to me, and then I'm steady trying to hide my hand, and he asked me how come I had my hand in my pocket. I told him, oh man, no reason. And then I took my hand out my pocket, because then he ordered me to, and he's like, man, your hand is bleeding. I'm like, yeah, because I still don't want him to go to jail, y'all. I said, how did I say it? I said that I slammed my hand in the door and, hurt my fingers, and that's why my hand was bleeding, see. And then, I guess he bought the whole story and everything. And then, so they told her that to get all her stuff, whatever she had or wanted to take with her, and just leave, because if she ever came back, she could be charged with trespass. So she leaves and everything for the night, and then the next day or the next evening, I hear this knock at the door again at around 6 or 7 in the evening. I open the door, I see 3 bright flashlights shining up in my face. And then I hear a voice, because the only thing I see is the light. I don't see the people holding the lights, because at the time, the light was just so bright. I hear, Mr. Slaughter, can we please see your hands? Come to find out, it was some police officers. And they had actually showed me this paper, which was a temporary order of protection, which she got on me that day. She wanted to come back to my home to get every single thing that she had left here. Oh, but I'm leaving out a part of the story from the first day. Let's rewind. You know. So what happened was, when we were waiting on the police, after I had called the police, I was just super mad. In this part of the story, because I gotta be transparent, I actually gotta say where I'm at fault at, and what I still regret to this very day. Something very bad that I did, and I admit that I had done it. That she told me, you could have called the police. You didn't put your hands on me. I got you now, you cheap bastard. When the police get here, I'm gonna have your black ass charged with domestic violence. Boy, you talk about me, somebody who was pissed. The first thing I did, I said, called her a bad name in Spanish, and I spit in her face. Yeah, and it's hard to admit that part of it I still regret, because I know that no matter what someone has done to you, I know that spitting on somebody, that's like the nastiest and worst thing you could ever do. So she had told me the next day, when she came with those 3 or 4 cops, and those 3 or 4 cops held me outside, because this is my home that we're doing this, that we're videotaping in right now, held me outside and within this area, and let her go rumbling through my bedroom. I'm not knowing what's going on or what she could be taking, but the cops are holding me out there, not letting me do anything, not letting me move anywhere. And then after this, after they leave, I mean, they tell me, don't contact her, don't call her, don't go to see her, don't do anything, because if you do, you'll be in violation of a protective order, which, you can get 2 to 3 years in prison if you are found guilty of that. So of course, I didn't. So we ended up going to court over it, but it was like a wrong date on my papers. So I ended up missing the court date, or the first court date. So I went back to court, and I went to go speak to the judge who was going to be presiding over the case at the time. And what he had his clerk do, he had his clerk give me a copy of the order for, he issued, first of all, a new court date. So he gave me 1 copy for myself and 2 copies to mail to her. 1 copy he told me to send certified mail, and the other copy he send regular mail. So that's what I did. It's kind of like an oxymoron. They kind of tell you, if you have an order of protection against somebody, or they have an order of protection against you, not to call the person, not to write, not to do anything, but yet they want you to mail papers to this person. So it seems kind of crazy to me. So what I did do exactly what the judge and what the clerk instructed me to do. I, sent a certified copy off at the post office and everything, got my receipt for it and all that. And so like a day later, I get home from work, and I hear this banging at my door again at 2 in the morning. I opened it up, saw the flashlight. Now this time it's only 1 cop. Saw a flashlight flashing in my face again. Mr. Slaughter, can I see your hands? Because, that's the first thing that they always want to see. Because, any police officer, they always think you're going for a weapon, So, I guess they don't want to think that there's some kind of bad luck accident. But like I said, I digress. So, I said, okay, my hands and everything are right here. He holds up this envelope. It says, excuse me, sir, what is this envelope or this letter that you had just sent to your ex-girlfriend that you know good and well that you're not supposed to send because she has an order of protection against you? And I had to tell him, I said, look, officer, if you look at that paper, what's in that letter, that is a paper talking about the next time that we're supposed to be in court, and it's issuing her another court date. because I wanted another court date because I just didn't want something like that on my record for the next 2 years that I had order protection. So he looks at the letter. He's like, okay, let me see. He looks at it. He's like, it seems like this is a paperwork from the court. And he asked me for my paper. So so I came downstairs, got my paper, and it all matched up. And so he said, okay, just close the door. Just don't worry about it. But there could be some more officers here in like maybe 10 or 15 minutes. If there's some more officers here in 10 or 15 minutes, if you hear a knock at the door, just don't answer because those are officers who could be coming to arrest you. But I just said, okay, I closed the door, but nothing happened. No officers came in 10 or 15 minutes. So we did go into court, in front of this judge. And I would give this judge's name, but I mean, right now I'm not going to because I still remember the judge's name in my case, but I did some checking into him recently, and he's retired. As a matter of fact, he's a person who went with the Chicago delegation to go see Pope John Paul II, some months ago get canonized as a saint because this particular judge actually personally met Pope John Paul II back during the 80s. So I was surprised to see him on TV, and they said that he is retired now as a retired Cook County judge. So, the judge in the case, he wouldn't let me talk at all. Because she was the woman, he let her say almost any kind of thing that she wanted to say. But yet, only thing I wanted to do when I was standing before him is just apologize. Especially for my part of spitting on her. And even for my part of maybe not listening. Maybe thinking back on it, maybe I could have taken a little bit more time or a few more minutes just to listen. But I guess to what she had to say, but I guess I just didn't. So I just wanted to just say I was sorry. So he just said that I couldn't say anything. So he asked her, well, Miss, has anything in your lives or in the case significantly changed? And he asked me the same thing. I said, no, nothing has changed, but can I please say something? He's like, no, you can't. You have to answer my questions. So he asked her something. He asked me something again. And I asked him, I said, Judge, can I please say something? That he finally yelled at me. He said, no, you can't. I've been trying to say anything else. And so what she wanted to do, I wanted to even take it up to a jury trial because I just didn't want to order protection on my record. So what he does is just continue the case. He held it over for continuance for a jury trial because she wanted the order of protection to stay in place while I didn't. So he tells both of us to go back to our seats and just wait for our copies of the next court date. And so after the case after mine, I actually did see him lock a young man up. And to come to find out, this young man is a guy I graduated from high school with. But of course, the guy, I think I was trying to come a little bit more humble. He was coming off a little bit much more aggressive. So I think in the end, that's how come he got locked up. And it seemed like the judge was hard on him because he was a little bit much more aggressive. And the thing is, the girlfriend, or his girlfriend, had order protection against him. But she was the one who was following him and trying to do all kinds of things. So that's what he was trying to bring to the judge's attention, that this woman got order protection against me, but she's actually following me. So he said to her that, well, is it true or something that you're following him? And then she said, yeah, I do follow him or something sometime. And he said, well, you got order protection against him. You can't do that. And then, the guy, he's acting just like, he's acting like one of these people who go on the talk shows or the court shows that you see on TV almost every single day. He's up there like, well, look, judge, look, man, not even saying judge, look, man, how you gonna have an order of protection against me with this woman, but yet this woman keep on following me, huh? And then so the judge said, well, I'm gonna keep the order of protection in place, and from now on, just stay away from each other. What he does, he actually turns and points right in the woman's face and said, you hear that, woman? Don't follow me. The judge was like, oh, you know what, bailiff? Lock him up. And then he actually spoke to the rest of us who were sitting out in the gallery. And he actually made a statement that he does not like TV court shows. Because he says that some people who don't know no better, and some people who've never had any contact with the legal system, they watch court on TV and actually think that you can come into a real courtroom and act the way that these people act on TV. So he says that he was trying to send a message to that young man that this is not TV, this is reality. And I'm going to show you right now, because this is a shift, how it changed, still in the same courtroom, on the same day, and in front of the same judge, when it was a man who had an order of protection against a woman. It was a Mexican guy. This guy, he was Mexican.
I can go through.
Yeah, just go on through. I think my little lady wants to go through and do the laundry or
Oh my God.
something. You know how that can work. But anyway, this Mexican guy, he had an order of protection against his girlfriend. And he said pretty much the girlfriend used to beat him up and say all kinds of things and used to do all kinds of things. And before they broke up, she had bleached his furniture, bleached his clothes, poured sugar down his gas tank and everything. So he ended up staying with a friend of his who happened to be a woman, because he had basically come from another city, here to Chicago, to come and be with this woman. But yet this is how, in the end that he got treated, see. And the judge was asking him, well, trying to make it all his fault that he was staying with this other woman. Well, asking him, well, are you sure that you shouldn't be with this other woman? He's like, our relationship is just strictly platonic, and she's just a friend who's just helping me out right now. That's all it is. That's all it will be. And the judge was like, you mean to tell me you stand with another woman? The judge actually laughed at him. It seemed to me that you're causing your own problem. The judge actually laughed at him. The judge gave him an order of protection anyway, but the judge did laugh at him. But the judge didn't laugh at any one of us men who were brought before, him, charged with domestic violence against a woman. And that's the thing about this whole Ray Rice thing. Everybody wants to point the finger at Ray Rice and a whole lot of other people, or just a whole lot of us men who do things. But what's the responsibility for the woman in this whole thing? It seems like in this society, especially in American society, because I do have to say American society, because even if you look at Islamic society, it's not run the way it is here. No. That every single onus and every single problem is put upon the man. That it's the man's responsibility to do this. It's the man's responsibility to do that. A woman can get away with doing and saying whatever she wants, and get away with even dressing any kind of way that she wants. But, it's to be expected because it's a woman. Now, how is that any different than, a man? Because I'm trying to teach in this lesson that in the end, whether you're male or female, a person is just nothing but just a person. It should be no free passes all because a woman is a woman. No. It should be no thing as Bill Cunningham actually getting up and saying that no matter what a woman does, a man should never put his hands on a woman. And I think that also, too, the main reason why they did come down on Ray Rice is because he's a black man, a young black man in the NFL making $65 million, because there have been certain white athletes, and there's even a white judge right now in Alabama who was actually found guilty of beating up his wife, who they gave a free pass to. So they're coming down on Ray Rice basically because it's racial, much more than anything, and they're just upset that this black man is making all of this money. And to me, the NFL, it shouldn't even get involved in this whole domestic violence thing in between him and his wife, because in the end, if it was all that bad in between those two, she shouldn't have married him, because she up and married him. So now, all because of all of this, all because a videotape surfaced, now that he done lost his life and lost his career and everything, and I don't think that this should be all because of this thing. Now maybe it was wrong looking at it from the other side, what he did, but that is also in between him and her. It has nothing to do with the NFL. Because it just seems like with the NFL or NBA or any other kind of sports agency, if you're out there making all of that money, people always say you always have to keep your nose clean. Because they're always looking for an opportunity to just snatch your career and endorsements and every single thing from you. All because he's a black man. Because there's been many white athletes who have done the same thing and have gotten away with it. And it should not be all because somebody is white and, you know, a little bit much more privileged that they can be allowed just to get away with anything, and black people have to, just because you're black and male, have to play by the different rules. Especially if you're a black man over a woman. No. Because even in this has nothing to do with male chauvinism. This is strictly divine law. It strictly says in the Word of God that it's God first, Jesus second, man third, and then woman is fourth, and woman is last. Because women have to be covered by men. Men are only covered in the Word of God by God. Because, you know, you have a whole lot of preachers out there too that always talk about, well, you know, I'm under a spiritual covering, or a man is my spiritual covering. To be covered by another man, that don't sound too good. That's kind of gay sounding. No. Men are covered only by God. And women get, the purpose of marriage, first of all, to get married is to be covered by a man, or to have your husband cover you. And that is the act, even during a wedding ceremony, of when the father gives the bride away. Because if you notice that in wedding ceremonies, that when a bride walks down the aisle with her father, or if the father might not be in her life, it could be like an older son or uncle or a male figure that the bride has a lot of respect for, that they give her or walk her down the aisle to the groom that is already waiting. That represents that the father of the bride has that covering. That as long as a woman is single, that it's the father who takes care of her. It's the father who pays for what she needs. It's the father who validates her, who makes her feel good and shows her what a husband's supposed to be. And then, whenever that husband comes along and you're in that wedding ceremony, the father walks the bride down the aisle to the groom, and it represents the father passing that covering from himself to the man who's going to be her husband. That's what that represents. So women are covered by men. Has nothing to do with male chauvinism. It has to do with just divine law. That's just how that is. And I just feel that we are all the same. There should be no different rules for when a man is found guilty of domestic violence and when a woman is found guilty of domestic violence. And in this country, women always get a pass on every single thing. Even when it comes down to dating. I mean, typically and customarily, they always say that, you know, whenever us men go out with a woman, that we always, no matter what, we always pay for the date. No matter what. They always act like us men have to do every single thing. That a woman's not supposed to do anything. I mean, we know a woman has responsibilities. But if you listen to a regular or the rest of American society, they act like women don't have to do anything all because it's a woman. And you have a woman right now who's maybe trying to run for president and that kind of a thing too. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen or whatever with that there. And then you had one other person who's famous, don't want to give the person's name, because I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead, but this particular person actually endorsed a certain female candidate over the black candidate. And this person is black. All because it's a woman. Really? It should be no difference. But it seems like in this country, in American society, there's always different rules for different people. Even when it comes down to getting government aid. If it's a woman who needs help, or something happens to a woman, she can easily go and get help from the government or get food stamps or whatever. But it's a little bit harder on a man to get any kind of government aid, all because it's a man. Every single thing, it seems like, is set up against the man. Even my mother says, she's a woman, and she said for the downfall of society and the downfall of men, she said that she actually blames women for the downfall of men. She says that this is how my mother puts it, that a whole lot of good men have been messed up, all because of bad women. It's women's fault. It's their fault. There is one particular author. He wrote a book called It's Her Fault. Basically talking about like how women do, how women act and that kind of thing, how women treat men. And all because he wrote that book talking about women, because he wasn't only an author, he was also a Chicago public school teacher. He got fired from his job and all of that kind of thing, all because he wrote that book. But he told the truth. It's her fault. It is her fault. Sometimes it's women who even cause men to err in certain ways. It's women who go out and wear tight pants and have their behind showing. Pants so tight that the pants look like they're shiny. They titties and everything all hanging out and that kind of a thing. And then men look at them lustfully. Or if a man ends up saying something that is bogus, then it's all his fault. Like a friend of mine told me about, there's a teenage girl who's 15 or 16 walking around the mall with a t-shirt that says, "I love sex." But if there was a man or a guy who walked up to her and said, "Hey, baby, you said you love sex? I love sex too." Then, I mean, it seems like they would just eat him alive if he had done such a thing. All because he's a man and she's a woman. I mean, even when we get on the bus and everything, or go through the doors or whatever, people always say that you're supposed to let a woman go through first and that kind of a thing. All because it's a woman. But it's women who have caused men to err, especially bad women. It's been women bad women or alien women who've caused good men to err. And good men to lust, and good men to fall into hell by the way that they look and the way that they carry themselves and dress. I mean, if you are out there, if you don't want to be called or wear the title of a hoe, don't dress like one. No, it's her fault. So now we need to get off of this thing that is supposed to be a big separation in between men and women. Because in God's eyes, if it's wrong for me to do certain things bogus, or if it's wrong for me to hit a woman, it's also wrong for a woman to hit me. Even Judge Judy says the same thing. She says that it might be wrong for a man to hit a woman, but a man is not supposed to just be taken advantage of and abused all because it's a man and you're a woman. She always used to say that years ago when she sat on the family court in New York, she was just as hard, if not harder, on women as she is men. Because even she found that it's more their fault than it is men. Us men, sometimes even when we have like families and everything, we try to do the best that we can, and it seems like it's so much always on our shoulders, stuff that we're trying to do, but the woman always wants us to do more and more and more. And if it's something that a woman wants done, they act like they just can't wait for anything. They want it done right now. Go get the food. Go shopping right now. Go fix the pipes underneath the stove right now. Go wash the dishes right now. They want it done now. No. When it comes down to life, this here is a give and take thing. We are all the same, male or female, in the eyes of God. And now how my story ends up is, when we finally did go to court again, in the end, my ex ended up dropping the case because it's certain friends of hers that told her, who got a chance to really, really know me, and they told her that they think that she actually provoked me. So she broke down and cried and told me that she was not going to show up in court, and she didn't. So the judge ended up dismissing it. No, the judge didn't dismiss it. I digress. No, he ended up vacating it, and I had to spend $150 out of my pocket to not have it show up on my record. $150 not to only have it dismissed, because if it's dismissed, there's always a trace of it on your record. But if you want to completely, the judgment completely vacate it and take it off your record, you have to pay that money. I have to pay $150. And then months later, even, and haven't worked since, because I lost my job months after that. Because what she did, when she had the regular order of protection sent to my job, she had the order of protection sent to my job by a sheriff. She knows she could have sent it to my house or any other place that I was. She had the sheriff send the order of protection on my job. Some certain bosses of mine ended up screwing with me. So I didn't get fired for that, but ended up getting fired for something else. And haven't worked since, since. When I thought that I was just a man who was just trying to always do the right thing. I mean, I thought that if I had the right kind of family and the right kind of upbringing, I thought that I would never ever get caught up in a system like this. But I can testify to it because it did happen to me, and it didn't feel so good. And I didn't mean to make this teaching so long, but I just had to tell you all where I've been and what other men have even been through. That doesn't have to be. Some of you women, I mean, I can understand that looking at it from you all side, or women who have been abused, that we know there's many women who've been abused. But I think that there's many women who also ruin it, or let's just say fake women, who ruin it for real women who are the real victims of abuse. When some of you fake women go in, file orders of protections and all of this other kind of stuff against people, and you don't need to. Sometimes people do that, or I've seen some women who file orders of protection to get maybe a leg up in a divorce or in a custody battle. You don't get to use the American justice system against a man or anyone just to get a leg up in a divorce settlement or a leg up in a custody battle just whenever it suits you. Because that makes the real victims of abuse, whether they be male or female, always look completely bad. That should not be. That's completely wrong if any of you all out there are doing it. So no, this kind of stuff should never happen the way that it is. But it seems like the whole court system is set up much more against men, and especially black and Latin men, more than anything. And it should not be. This kind of thing needs to change. Why? Because you heard it right there earlier in my foundational scripture in the Word of God, that we are all one. What God said unto one, He said unto everybody. And that God has no respect of persons. It doesn't matter whether you're male or female. Right is right and wrong is just wrong. Thank you all very, very much for listening and for bearing with me during this teaching. And I'll be back again very, very soon, maybe next week, with the third installment of this teaching. I'm not finished. That I'm going to be teaching of a tale of two countries. And right now, once again, this is Roosevelt signing off with another episode ending of Roosevelt Sounds Off. Peace.